afternoon. Welcome to this session of NSA e-Nugget series. Hello to everybody who is either watching it from C3A's Facebook page or the NSA Virtual Roadshow. My name is Susan and I'm from CFS, Center for Seniors. Very happy to be here the next hour with you, talking about caregivers' wellness. So, what is caregiver wellness? First of all, I think let's find out how many of you are currently a caregiver. Could you all do the poll for me? Well, a caregiver can be a caregiver to your aged parent, or you can be a caregiver to your grandchildren. So looking after your grandkids is also considered caregiving. Or some of you may be a caregiver to your spouse, or some of you may be a caregiver to your adult child. So caregivers comes in different roles. Yeah. So caregiving is a very, very tedious, stressful job sometimes. You are really on 24/7. And so taking care of yourself is very, very important as a caregiver. So let's give you a few more seconds to do the poll and see how many of you are actually caregivers, and therefore this talk will be really, really relevant for you. But for those of you who are not caregiver, you may know of somebody who is a caregiver, right? And all this information will be useful for you as well, so that you can actually inform your friends, right? So, okay, majority of you say, yes, you're a caregiver. All right, so you're at the correct talk. So what will we be talking about today? How do we prepare for a stressful caregiving journey? All right, recognizing caregivers' burnout and how can we prevent burnout as caregivers? Well, there are only 4 kinds of people in the world. First, those who have been caregiver. Secondly, those who are currently caregivers. Thirdly, those who will be caregivers. Or the last one is those who will need caregivers. And for those of you who are caregivers, I'm sure you're very well versed with caregiving stress. Would any one of you like to share with me what are some of the caregiving stress perhaps? You need to juggle with housework. You need to juggle with providing the care itself, the task of providing care. You need to juggle with marketing. Some of you may still be working, right? So you might still have to juggle with work. And then there are other things in life that you have to juggle with. So caregiving is really stressful, all right? And the thing is, your care recipients, your loved ones, they may not behave the same every day. Different days, they may have different needs. And so that add on to the stress of caregiving. So caregiver stress is essentially a state of physical and emotional strain caused by the heavy multitasking and feeling underappreciated. Sometimes, some of you may, give up your job, stay at home to look after your loved one. But yet you feel like, hey, I'm trying my best. Yet nobody say thank you or nobody say that I'm doing well. But if something happened to your loved one, and everybody will start to come and ask you, why this happened? Why did you do something about it? You are the caregiver. So you might feel that, oh my God, I did not mentally prepare for this. And this could be a form of caregiving stress. All right. In addition, if this stress is not being managed properly, it will roll over, okay? You accumulate, and over a long time, this small stress build up and you become what we call the caregiver's burnout. And caregiver's burnout is actually a state where physically, emotionally, and mentally you feel exhausted and you wish that you can escape from the caregiving tasks, all right? You don't really feel for the person that you're taking care for. And this is what we call compassion fatigue. Even your loved one, it can be your parent, it can be your grandchildren, you don't feel for them anymore. To you, they are just an object, a task that you have to do. And over a long time, the consequence of burnout is you tend to neglect or even abuse your care recipient. And I'm sure that you have heard the news quite a few years back that even professional caregivers who are professionally trained, all right, to provide care, could abuse the care recipients because of burnout, because they have too many things to do in a day. The working hours are just too long. And you know that caregiving is really 24/7, especially if you are living with them at home, right? So it can be the long hours, the lack of rest, the really, the demand on your attention, on your time that can cause you to be burnout. And one of the consequences of burnout is, of course, neglect or abuse. So how do we then recognize caregiver burnout? Firstly, ask yourself if you are easily irritated, or small things just make you angry, or sometimes you feel very guilty despite everybody have been telling you that you are doing a good job, but yet you still feel very guilty. You still feel like you haven't done your best, right? Or sometimes, you are so burnt out that every little thing your care recipients, for example, your parents with dementia, every little thing they do, you just want to shout at them, hey, stop doing that. No, it's not the right thing to do, right? Or some of you may be so burnt out that you're unable to concentrate. So when you're performing a caregiving task, you're unable to concentrate. You're unable to concentrate in a conversation with your care recipient. Or sometimes you may be feeling moody all the time, or you're always worried, oh, with this COVID thing, should I, go out to do marketing? What if I came back and I contract COVID, and then how can I be a caregiver? Should I bring my mother out on a wheelchair? What if she so there's a lot of worrying, all right? Or you feel tired all the time, so much so that you actually withdraw from your normal social activities, all right? Things that you used to love, you no longer are doing it. Okay, so these are classic signs of caregiving stress and burnout, all right? Or there's change in appetite, you're unable to eat well, you're losing weight, there's change in sleeping habits, you're unable to sleep, either unable to fall asleep or unable to remain asleep, all right? Or sometimes you just have this frequent aches and pains, stomach ache, or you feel that your heart is beating very fast, you feel nervous all the time, all right? So all these are classic caregiver stress symptoms or burnout symptoms. So be very careful of that. Now that you know how to recognize the symptoms, now what do we need to do in order for a stress-free caregiving journey? Okay, so we propose to you the CACR. C stands for consider, A, arrange, C again, care, and R, to review. It's very important, the R. A lot of us sometimes forget to do the R. So what do we consider? There are a few things to consider, but first of all is to consider yourself, all right? What about yourself do you need to consider? Firstly, are you mentally prepared for the caregiving task? Things may not be as easy as it seems to be. So are you mentally prepared? I mean, it's quite a change in your daily routine from, especially if you have been working in the office and now you'll be staying at home, mostly to provide care to your loved ones. So the change in environment can be very different. When you go to your office to work, you have your colleagues to talk to. Sometimes you gossip. Sometimes, you pour out some of your grievances. But here at home, you may not be able to do that anymore, and you are having to face your care recipient 24/7. So are you mentally prepared for this? Are you prepared for the level of care that is required? For example, if you are taking care of your aged parents and they are wheelchair bound, do you know how to do a transfer from the wheelchair to the bed, or from the wheelchair to the chair? So the level of care that is required, the skills of caregiving. So if you are not sure how to transfer your loved ones, maybe you should go and take out a training so that you can be more confident when you are taking care of your loved one. And right, and also what are the support that is available, and what are the supports that you need, right? So part of the support may be rotating among your family members, on weekends, maybe they can come over. So things like that are things that you need to consider about when you're starting a caregiving routine. Secondly, you need to consider about your loved one, all right? Are they mentally prepared to be cared by you? Sometimes, they have been very independent for a long part of their life, and now suddenly they have to be cared by you. They may not be so prepared. Sometimes, maybe your spouse had just recovered from a stroke and may need help with the showering. Even when it's between spouse, some of the spouse are not comfortable having the other person give them a shower. So are they prepared mentally to have you help them in such intimate chores, for example? All right. So these are things that you need to think about for your loved one. Especially, you also need to think about how can you maintain their level of independence, right? While providing care for them. If you start to do everything for them, then they will have this called the learned helplessness. Then they stop doing things for themselves, right? And so you need to balance while you want to provide care for them. You also want them to still maintain independence. For example, if you are taking care of your grandchildren, you want your grandchildren to learn to be independent, right? So you don't want to do everything for them. I heard some of my participants say that, after they finish their lunch, ask them to do the dishes. They are able to do dishes now. They're in primary 3. I'm like, you're quite right. That actually help to motivate them as well to learn more life skills, right? And of course, you need to consider about the environment. Okay, so what about the environments that you need to think about? It is really about your the safety of the environment. Is it safe for your care recipient? For example, if your care recipient is on a wheelchair, and in the HDB flats, there are sometimes a curb going from the living room to the kitchen. There's a curb. You need to smoothen that out. Otherwise, it will not be so safe for the wheelchair to move around, for example, right? What about comfort? Is the environment comfortable for your care recipient? Okay, some of the care recipients may be bed-bound, and so do you have, the bed that with the backrest, or if not, then when you have to feed them, you have to lift them up and then prop them with a pillow, and so that might not be so comfortable for them. Okay, is the environment conducive for the caregiving, and is it clean? So cleanliness is an important thing, especially when it comes to prevention of infection with COVID going around now. Maintaining the hygiene, maintaining the cleanliness at home is an important part of your caregiving journey. Next, we look at arrange. What do you need to arrange? For yourself, if you think that there are some caregiving skills that you might not be so comfortable in, then of course arrange for the training that you require. All right. Learn about the conditions of the care recipient. Okay, so for example, if you are taking care of your parents with dementia, learn more about dementia. Understand why your parents behave in certain manner on certain days, and yet on certain days they behave like they are normal. So the more you understand about the condition, the more comfortable you are in your caregiving journey, because you are prepared for the unforeseen circumstances that can happen every other day. All right. And of course, then you want to plan for the supports that you need. So if you think that every week you need your weekend off, then you need to talk to, your other family members about that as well. So that is to arrange, right? If you don't talk to them to arrange for the weekends off, then they wouldn't know that you actually need it. You also want to look at different things when you are planning for yourself. So ranging from becoming aware of what you need to do as a caregiver to when you start caregiving, what do you need to do? And then you, as a caregiver, you develop your own routines, and then you need to continuously adapt. And one day you might lose your caregiving role, and then how do you redefine your identity? So let's go into it one by one. So, like I said, becoming aware that you're going to be a caregiver, and it might be a total change of environment, right? Or change of routine. What kept you busy before the caregiving? Now that you're going to be a caregiver, you may not have time to pursue that anymore. So some of you may be grandparents, and before becoming grandparents, you had your own time. You go for your Zumba, you go for your chess, playing golf with your friends, and then suddenly, you have to look after your grandchildren, and you cannot go out and play your golf as and when you like anymore, or you might not have time to go for Zumba during the daytime that you have to take care of them. So you need to be aware of things like that. Then when you start the caregiving, okay, do you know what to do? What do you struggle with? And therefore, how do you get more help with, right? So it's just like, some grandparents had never been grandparents before, and, feeding a baby, at first they may struggle with, of course, they have fed a baby before, but that is like many, many decades ago, right? Now their children are adults and they have given birth. So they may need to start to learn how to feed the baby again, for example. And then developing your routines, with your caregiving tasks, and also your other household chores, and also your other self-care routine. How do you plan your daily schedule so that you don't feel so stressed, you don't feel so breathless at the end of the day? But remember, all these things needs to be continuously adapted, all right? Because the care recipient needs will change over time. And so you need to adapt, all right? Nothing is casted in stone. And one day you may lose your caregiver's role, all right? Your loved one may pass away, may no longer be around, or your grandchildren may be grown up and they don't need you as a caregiver anymore. So there are different reasons, right, that you lose your caregiver's role. And so then what do? Some of you, after losing your caregiver's roles, you're at a stage of loss. So it is about having to plan about redefining your identity. So now you're no longer grandparents, you don't have to take care of your grandchild anymore because they're in secondary school. So what do you do? What plans do you have for the future? Or your parents pass away and you don't have to go visit them anymore. And so what do you do? What are your plans? Next, you need to arrange for your loved one as well, right? What do you arrange for them? It is about involving them in as much decision making as possible. After all, it's their life, right? You're taking care of them, right? So involving them in their own care as much as possible, allowing them to do things that they are still able to do. Sometimes you might need to modify the task so that they are able to do it. For example, a person who just had a stroke may be stronger on the left side and may not be so strong on the right side, and taking shower they need two sides. And so how do you modify the showering experience so that the person can still help himself or herself as much as they can, for example, right? And it's all this is about open communication, talking to them about it, asking them how they like to be involved, asking them how they foresee that they like you to provide the care. And there's this important thing that you need to have open communication about with your loved one, especially your parents who are aged, or your spouse. Okay, it's called the Advanced Care and Medical Care Plan. So what's the differences between the ACP, AMD, and LPA? All right, ACP is Advanced Care Planning, AMD is Advanced Medical Directive, and LPA is your lasting power of attorney. And what's the difference? And I'll go through them one by one so that you know the difference and you are ready to have that open communication. So ACP, it is not a legal document. It is a personal document, all right? It's about planning your care should one day you're unable to advocate for yourself anymore. So there's a template at livingmatters.sg. You can go there and download the template and start thinking about, what you need to live a meaningful life and what would be important to you and what kind of care, what kind of treatment options would you want in the future. And once you have thought about it, you need to talk it over with your loved ones. So if you're having this conversation with your parents, then you need to let them think about it, maybe for a few days before talking to them about their choices. And once you have that conversation, then you need to respect their choices. So how do you start a conversation? So I had the ACP conversation with my mom a few years back, and yeah, I mean, I'm a very straightforward person, and I just asked her, if one day you ever get really sick, I want to know what kind of care you like. I don't want to second guess. I don't want to make the wrong decision for you. So let's talk about it. Okay, so we had that conversation. So of course, it depends on how close you are with your family member. You might start the conversation in different ways, but at the end of the day, it is really to get things going. And this ACP conversation may not take only one session. It may take a few sessions because halfway through the conversation, you might end up not agreeing with each other's perspective or the choices, and you start, arguing, why do you want to say that? Why do you want to make that choice? Why don't you just make another choice? And then the other person, but it's my life, you asked me, so I'm telling you. So then you might take a time out and say, okay, let's go and think about it for another few days, and we'll come back again and talk about it again. So remember, the conversation may take quite a few sessions. And then what is AMD, Advanced Medical Directive? Is a legal document that you lodge with MOH, Ministry of Health, all right? Do not resuscitate. So if you wish to do it, you can go to any medical doctor and tell them that you wish to do an AMD, and they can do it for you. And a lot of people say, then if I do an AMD, and then if I meet with an accident and they send me to the emergency department, then will they not resuscitate me anymore? So don't worry, all right. In the healthcare profession, our role is to save life. And so the first thing we'll do when we meet you at the A&E is to save your life, and then determine the prognosis of your life. And if the prognosis is poor, and if you collapse again and you have an AMD, then we say, okay, we don't do the resuscitation now. But the first time we meet you, we will always resuscitate you first. So don't worry about that. Then we want to look at what's LPA, right? Lasting Power of Attorney. Again, this is a legal document as well. And for those people who has not done it yet, please go and do it, because there's a deadline, I think in August this year or September this year. It's still free for you to lodge your LPA. Otherwise, after that, you have to pay, I think, $80 to lodge your LPA. But of course, you need a lawyer or certain certified doctor to do that. And of course, you need to pay the lawyer or the doctor to do the documentation for you. So this, again, is a legal document, all right? It allows you to appoint donee, somebody who can act on your behalf should the court deem that you no longer have the mental capacity to act on your own behalf. And this is a very important piece of document that you need to think about, because a lot of people think that, no problem, what? The house is, between both names, myself and my husband. And so if something happened to me, my husband can sell it away and can raise funds. But the thing is that is, for example, something happened to you, you have a stroke, and you are then deemed to not have the mental capacity to make the decision anymore. If your husband wants to sell the flat to raise money to fund your medical care, he's unable to, because they need both signature, and your signature is not recognized anymore. So there will be a period of time that, the family may go through some financial difficulties, which I've seen a lot in the hospitals, because they were not able to raise funds on a timely manner, and the quality of care may suffer and things like that. So LPA, in my opinion, is more important than the will. I know a lot of you have done your will, but some of you might not have done your LPA. So think about it and start, find out more about the LPA at the publicguardian.gov.sg website. And next, you need to arrange the environment. What about the environment? So you need to see if there are assistive devices that is required. So you need, for example, if you need grab bars on the wall, then you need to get the grab bars, and you need to get a proper contractors to come and install the grab bars. The grab bars needs to be installed at a height that is suitable for the care recipient, depending on the height of the care recipient. So there are some HDB contractors that tell you that, oh, I've done, 1 million houses, no problem. But actually, if you want, you should actually get occupational therapists to come and measure the height and mark it on your wall, and get the contractor to come in to install that. That would be the best choice. Then, of course, you need to care for yourself, right? And that's what this talk is about, right? So what do you need to do to care for yourself? So on a day-to-day basis, you need to ensure that you have time for exercise, okay? Because exercise actually stimulates your brain to release the feel-good hormone called endorphins, and that is, a stress relief hormones, all right? So it is important for you to do at least 30 minutes to 60 minutes of exercise every day. Make sure you're eating well, okay? Because when you eat well, then you take care of your health, then you're in a better position, all right, to be a caregiver. And sleep is very important. I'm sure you have been jet lagged before, and when you were jet lagged, it's hard for you to function, it's hard for you to think properly, right? And you know that as a caregivers, you need to make many decisions on a day-to-day basis, and so in order for you to function properly, in order for you to think properly, in order for you to be able to concentrate, sleep is very important. And if you ever feel very stressed with the caregiving task, talk to someone. You're not alone, all right? You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family members, but if you feel that they wouldn't be able to understand, there are also professionals, there are also support group that you can approach, and we'll talk a little about that later. And remember, it is okay to ask for help if you feel that you're unable to cope. And it is also okay to accept help, all right? Sometimes your family members may be able to see that you are struggling, and they might offer to help you, yet you might be the one who reject and say no, it's okay. They might offer to say, look, you look very tired, why don't we come over on weekends to take over from you, and then you can have a rest on weekend. And you say, no, but I'm the caregiver, we agreed that I should quit my job to take care of mom, and so I should be caring for her 24/7. You all have to work, it's okay. All right, if people offer help, then accept it graciously. Okay, you can never get too much help. The more help you get, the better you feel. And when you feel better and less stressed, then you are a better caregiver. Categorize and discuss the tasks with those who offer to help. Okay, maybe some of the tasks you feel that you're able to do that best. All right, so maybe those things you can do it before you go out on weekends. So maybe you say, okay, I'll shower mom even on weekends. Because mom feels shy with you showering them. Oh, okay, that's fine. So you could shower mom first before you go out on weekends, and to have a respite, right? So these are things that you can categorize, and you can discuss with the family members what they should do and what you should do. And remember to pace yourself, okay? There's no hard and fast rule like what time must a person shower. Like today is kind of rainy, and it's 2:30. If the person feel cold and doesn't want to shower, it's fine. You can shower at 4 p.m. when the sun is out. It's fine. Nobody say shower must be done in the morning. And sometimes, because of routine like this, caregivers get into the fight with the care recipient, like, no, must go and shower now, but no, but I don't feel like, and so this becomes a daily struggle. And it doesn't have to be, because that struggling actually add even more stress to yourself. All right. And of course, be able to recognize the emotions and burnout symptoms that we have covered just now. All right. And seek help early. And an important thing that caregivers share with me is that once they are able to see the light, once they are able to find the positive meaning related to their caregiving role, caregiving becomes a lot more meaningful to them. All right. They no longer resent the challenges. In fact, they love the challenges. And when they are able to solve that and they see the smile on the face of their care recipient, their loved ones, that makes them feel even better. So it generates more positive feelings when you're able to find that positive meaning as a caregiver. It helps you feel closer to your care recipients, your loved ones, all right? Because you have a sense of purpose, you have a sense of meaning. And that sense of purpose, that sense of meaning actually helps you to grow as a person, to grow spiritually. And so then caregiving becomes more enjoyable to you rather than stressful for you. So that is important. And of course, there are the coping strategies, right? So learning some of the relaxation techniques that might be useful in relieving stress. So this is what we are going to do now. I'm going to teach you the relaxation breathing technique so that you are able to use whenever you feel stressed, when you're, during your day, when you're doing your caregiving. So what I like you to do is I like everybody to sit up straight, all right? Make sure that there's a small gap between your back and the back of the chair. All right, so don't lean onto the back of the chair. So sit up straight and move forward a bit so that there's a small gap between your back and the back of the chair. All right, and I want you to just take the next few seconds to relax yourself and just concentrate on the in and out of your breath. All right, thinking about nothing else, just pay attention to the in and out of your breath. Okay, are you ready? All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, everybody, I'd like you to breathe in slowly and feel how the air is going in, and breathe out slowly. If you like, you might close your eyes and I'll let you know when you can open your eyes. And as you breathe in, tell yourself to relax. As you breathe in, tell yourself to smile. And out. As you breathe in, feel the tension on your forehead. Are you frowning? Release those tensions. Just feel the rise and the fall of your chest. Be with your breath. Okay, you may open your eyes. So this is a very short session on your practice on the relaxation breathing technique. I'm only trying you out on 30 seconds, but if you find that it's been beneficial for you, you can, of course, do it for a longer period of time, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sometimes we do it for 30 minutes or even longer, all right, depending on whether you can find the time in between your caregiving tasks. If you cannot find a lot of time, 30 minutes is a good break as well, all right? It's always better than nothing, okay? And maintain the open communication with your family members and friends, all right? They're always there for you, so feel free to approach them, feel free to talk to them. And it's important to get the respite time to do something that you enjoy. If you enjoy playing golf before, Find time to play golf. All right. If you enjoy going to Zumba, find time to go for your Zumba, your exercise, your gardening. Some of you like to talk to your plants. Find time to do that as well. And I say about support group, right? So yeah. So there are different support groups. All right. Support groups can be in the form of your friends. So among my close friends, we have a WhatsApp chat called support group, right? And we know that if we need to vent anything, we'll just have to type it all out in that WhatsApp chat. And then we'll get the supports that we need, the affirmation that we need to hear, the kind words, the comforting words that we need to hear. And so you might start something like that with your friends as well, all right, to get in touch with your friends. Or you can also join caregiver support groups, okay? And later I'm going to share with you some of the support groups that you can join. And there are also respite care services that you can tap on if, for example, your siblings or other family members are not do not have the time to help you out. Okay, so there are adult care center which offer respite care on weekends, and you can actually go find out more about these services. So these are some of the community support groups. Yeah. So for example, the ADA, Alzheimer's Disease Association, they do have support group for caregivers. Yeah. And so you might want to approach them as well, even for Parkinson's Disease Association. I'm seeing some questions here. I will answer them at the end of the talk. And for those of you who are on who are looking for financial help, for example, there are also grants that you can tap on. For example, if you feel that, I'm not so sure about the transfer skills, the transfer from wheelchair to the bed and things like that. And I would like to learn so that I don't drop my mother when I'm transferring her. So there's actually a caregivers training grant provided by AIC. And you can actually tap on training grants like that to go for caregiving courses so that you can become more competent and confident as a caregiver, for example. Okay, then of course, we are also looking at things like the Seniors Mobility and Enabling Fund. So for example, if your care recipient, your parent need to be on a wheelchair, all right, you can actually tap on this fund to buy a wheelchair for your parents, okay? And there's also the Foreign Domestic Worker Grant, all right? So if you need to have a helper to help you because your parent is quite big size and you're alone and you are struggling with the transfer and all that. So all these are different grants that you can tap on to help you to reduce the burden as a caregiver. There are a lot more resources for caregivers on the Silver Pages, and Silver Pages is run by AIC. So you can go to silverpages.sg home, or you can call them at their hotline, and they are able to actually give you a lot more information on either whether is it the support group, or which grant should you be tapping on, or where do you go for respite care, which is the nearest adult care center near you. If there are a few adult care centers near you, which one is most suitable for the medical condition of your spouse or of your parent. So all these are resources that you can find on the Silver Pages website, or when you call them, their officers will be able to help you out. And lastly, it comes to review, right? So what do we review? Firstly, review about yourself. How do you feel about this whole journey in caregiving? All right. Do you feel more confident now in certain caregiving skills that when you started off, you were not so sure, right? Do you feel that you're getting better? Or do you feel that you are losing your temper more? All right, small things that your grandchildren do annoys you, and you are always shouting at your grandchildren. Then maybe hey, you might want to say, hey, am I heading towards a burnout as a grandparent? Maybe something I need to do. Maybe I need to, take time out, for example. Excuse me, go meet my friends, for example. So things like that are important things for you to review. You might also want to review, the decisions that you make. Does it work? The decisions that you make, to maybe install the grab bar at home. Is it working? Is it helping you in the caregiving? When you're showering, your loved one need to home do the grab bar. Is it at the correct height? That actually helps your loved one to push themselves up, or is it too high and they are unable to use that? So you need to review, and then you need to say, okay, if it's too high, then I need to ask the contractor to come and to readjust that again so that it's at the correct height. So these are things that you review. All right. You want to also review things like medication that your loved one is on. So I always tell people, medication is a two-edged sword. On one hand, it helps your loved one feels better. Okay, it controls some of the symptoms. On the other hand, there's also side effects. And the more medication you have, the more side effects they have. And some of the medications you are taking are to control the side effect of some other medication. And therefore, I always ask people, does your loved ones need to be on so many medication? Sometimes when you complain to the doctor, yeah, my mother is not sleeping well. Oh, okay. So sleeping pill. Yeah, my mother, the mood is not so good. Oh, okay, mood stabilizer. And then you want to ask, does my mother need the sleeping pill? Okay. Does my mother need a mood stabilizer? Because sometimes we look at older people with in a different light, with a different set of glasses. For example, if the baby, the newborn, don't sleep through the night. Okay, during the night they'll wake up a few times, right? And you say, oh, that's normal. Babies like that, they wake up a few times in the night. But you never think of giving the baby sleeping pills to make the baby sleep through the night, don't you? But when the adult cannot sleep through the night and they wake up a few times, and you say, oh, okay, I think my mother needs sleeping pills, so can sleep through the night, and so why is there a difference in treatment between the adult and the baby? And I always might ask people, really, does your mother need sleeping pills? Because the side effect of sleeping pills is it makes them drowsy. Sometimes then when they wake up in the middle of the night and want to go to the toilet, they trip and fall and break their bones, okay, because they were drowsy. Sometimes it's so strong that it makes them drowsy even in the day. Then in the day, you want them to keep themselves awake, but they are drowsy and they like to rest. But you want them to keep awake, and so you ask them to watch TV. You ask them to do activities with you, read the papers and things like that. And so when you are tired and you want to rest, and somebody doesn't allow you to rest, then of course you are angry with the person. So maybe you scold the person, and then you say, "Oh, my mother's mood is not so good," and then the doctor say, "Okay, mood stabilizer," and so more and more and more medication, and so sometimes you want to ask, are all this medication needed? So the review then becomes important, and with the review, it is actually a reframe, the different way of looking at caregiving, a different way of looking at your care recipient. So if you're really the caregivers, and if your parents had day-night reversal, they don't sleep at night and they sleep during the day, would you also do the same with them so that you can keep up to their routine? Those of you who has given birth, the baby, don't sleep through the night, and the mothers, most mothers of the newborn will sleep when the baby sleep. Even during the day, the baby sleep, you sleep, and then the baby wakes up for breastfeeding, then you do the breastfeeding, and so you adjust your routine, your schedule to the baby. Say as your care recipient, could you adjust your routine and your schedule to the care recipient so that you can review to see that if it's working out better for your care recipient? Are they happier or are they more reassured? Rather than they themselves feel very anxious, they themselves feel very stressed because things are being done on them and yet they cannot really verbalize it. And so when they are stressed, they make you stress. And when you are stressed, you make them stress. So for a stress-free caregiving journey, it is really for both of you to feel stress-free. All right. And then your support, right? What are the kind of support that you need besides, the financial support, besides the support group, having people to talk to? What else? Do you need to read up more on some, conditions, medical conditions? Do you need to read up more on the medications that the person is on? I tell you, these days, Dr. Google is great. You all know Dr. Google? So these days we Google a lot of things, right? Yeah. So, you always want to find credible sources of information as you Google. All right. So make sure they are credible source. But you can actually find a lot of information to enhance your understanding as a caregiver. And I always say, as a caregiver, it's a lifelong learning because there'll always be new things that you find that, oh, I'm still not aware of this. Oh, I don't know about this. Even I've been taking care of my mom for the past 10 years. Oh, this is something new because their condition changes all the time, and so there will be adjustment. There will be new information that you need to find out. And so these are the type of supports that you need. And so if you're able to go out and meet, fellow caregivers through the support group, sometimes then you don't have to go through Google. You can just call them and say, hey, remember that time you were saying this about, your spouse and this is what you do. Can you repeat that information again so that, I think I'll need that right now. And so these are important things for you to review so that you are able to know that, I'm doing right, I'm doing okay. Or you find that, no, I think I need to work a little harder on this area. I need to work less hard in this area so that, there can be a balance. All right. Remember, your mental well-being is important as a caregiver. And so your wellness is important. And with this, I would like to share with you one more relaxation exercise, all right, that you can do for a stress-free caregiving. So just now I asked you to actually concentrate on your breathing. And now I would like you to again sit up straight. We are going to do a relaxation exercise, a progressive relaxation exercise from your head to your toe. All right. So I like you to sit up straight and make sure that there's a gap between your back and the back of the chair. All right. And I like you to close your eyes and just listen to my instruction before we end the talk. Right. So I like you to bring your attention to your left foot and release the tension. Wiggle your toes. Release the tension in your left foot. Next, I'd like you to bring your attention to your left calf and feel the tension in your calf. Is there any pain in your calf? And tell yourself to relax. And now I want you to bring your attention to your left thigh and feel how your thigh is in contact with the chair. How does it feel? And now I'd like you to bring your attention to your right foot. Again, you might want to wiggle your toe, relax the tension in your foot. And I'd like you to bring your attention up to your right calf. How does the right calf feel as compared to the left? Is it tense? Is it tight from all the walking? Tell yourself to relax. And now I want you to bring your attention to your right thigh. Feel how your right thigh is contacting the chair. Does the chair feel cool, soft, hard? And tell yourself to relax. Now I want you to bring your attention up to your tummy area. How does it feel? You relax the muscles around your tummy. Like you would bring your attention to your lower back. Does it feel sore, achy from the sitting? Tell yourself to relax the back. And now I'd like you to bring your attention up to your upper back. Is there any aches and pain? Relax your shoulders. Now I'd like you to bring your attention to your left arm. To your left hand. And down to your fingers. And now I want you to bring your attention to your right hand. How does it feel as compared to the left side? Down to your fingers. Wiggle your fingers. Relax the tension. And now I'd like you to bring your attention to your neck. Your neck muscles, are they tight? Are they causing you a headache? Tell yourself to relax. And finally, bring your attention to your face. Feel any tense muscles. Relax them. Break into a gentle smile. And enjoy the breath. In and out. Slowly breathe in and out. Slowly breathe in and out. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. You can open your eyes. I hope with this relaxation exercise, you feel more relaxed now. All right, and you're able to go back to your caregiving soon. Now let's look at some questions. I do have questions here. How can we stay healthy while providing care? So it is important that as a caregiver, you stay healthy, right? And so the first thing about staying healthy is about your diet, okay? Watch out on your diet. Make sure you're eating according to my healthy plate 3 times a day, all right? So you have sufficient protein, you have sufficient vegetables, you have sufficient fruits, and you have your brown rice, your whole meal, all right? Carbohydrates, okay? That's the first thing about staying healthy. Secondly is about exercising, all right? A healthy body is not just about the in, but it's also about the out. So the movement, our human's body are made to move, are not made to stay still. And so if you're a caregiver and you have to do a lot of transfer, for example, then it is important for you to build muscles so that you actually have the strength to lift your care recipients, your loved ones, right? And so doing your upper body strength training becomes important. But yet, when we are transferred, we are not only using the strength from our upper body, we are also using our core muscles and your leg muscles. And so then doing the sit to stand squats becomes important because it helps you build your core and your leg muscles as well. So exercise like this helps you stay healthy, all right, while providing care so that you don't accidentally injure yourself. Then you find that you are out of the action for a long time because you cannot provide the care, right? One more thing is also that if you are doing transfer regularly, try to get yourself a belt, okay, so that you can put around your waist, okay, so that you can support your back as you are doing the transfer. Question number 2, I'm looking after my mom at home. Am I considered a caregiver? Yes, looking after your mom at home, you are also a caregiver. My mom is very sensitive and superstitious. How can I talk to her about ACP? Well, as I say, it's really about timing, all right? So when I need to talk to my mom, or previously when I need to talk to my late grandmother, the way to talking to them is through their stomach. So I always bring them for a date to have some nice food. Then when they are full, then we talk about, I'll find, a way to talk about the conversation that we need to have, all right? If she's superstitious and sensitive, maybe, when you are watching, a TV drama together and opportunity arise that, something happened, maybe an accident happened, then, you can bring in and say that, Ma, if something like this happened, how? Okay, so things like that. So you need to then look for opportunities, all right? My friend is a caregiver and looks very stressed all the time. How can I help? So thank you for caring for your friend, all right? I think the first thing is to reach out to your friend and tell your friend, you look very stressed all the time. Are you very stressed? Is there anything I can help you with? Okay, as a friend, I would like to help you. Is there anything I can help you with? Would you like to tell me, why are you stressed with? Maybe I cannot help you, but maybe we can think of solutions together. I heard that people say sometimes talking it out makes you feel better. And I, attended the Susan's talk about caregivers, wellness. Maybe now I know slightly more information. So if you could share with me, why are you so stressed? I might be able to share, some of the things I learned from Susan's talk, right? So it's about reaching out to your friend, letting the person know that you have been observing the person, and and find that the person has been very stressed, and he or she likes to talk about it. Remember, you cannot force a help on somebody, okay, but you can always approach the person again and again and again, and be patient. Sometimes when the first time you approach the person may reject your help, all right, may reject talking to you, but don't give up. Keep going back to them. I always believe in opportunity. One day when the timing is right, the person will open up, all right? So you're just planting, the seeds, for one day the flower will bloom, okay? So keep doing that. Am I legally responsible for the person I give care to if anything happened to them? Okay. So this is a very tricky question. When we train caregivers professionally, we always tell them that they are legally responsible for their action, okay? So when we train caregivers, professional caregivers, they are not supposed to administer medication, not even Panadol, because patient can be sensitive to Panadol, and then they might have an allergic reaction, and that might kill them, okay? As a professional caregiver, the patient's family can sue your organization. However, if you're taking care of your parents, we give medication to our parents all the time, and the family members unlikely going to sue you, if anything happened to them. And therefore, it is important to have the ACP conversation. It is important to have the LPA done so that people know who should the decision maker be. If they need to make decision about the care, who should be the one making the decision? Is it you, or is it your brother whom your parent trust more or feel more suitable? And so if anything happened legally, then that person should be the person to go to. My friend is quite new to caregiving and she does not have much experience. Can you share any tips on how she can adapt to this routine? So the first thing is really to have that conversation, okay, with whoever she's taking care, her care recipient, all right? How her care recipient likes the care to be given. Okay, and then caregiving is really about, it's a discovery journey. It is about providing the care according to how the care recipient likes to be cared for, and therefore the care recipient feel happy. And sometimes I tell people that, you know, even brushing teeth is a routine that is unique to different one of you. All right. Some of you brush your teeth starting from the middle. Some of you go in the right. Some of you go in the left. Some of you start from the biting. Different one of you has different ways of brushing your teeth. And how your friend might want to start with asking her care recipient how she would like, you know, all these activities of daily routines to be done, in what way, how she like to shower and things like that, so that as she's providing that care, the person feels comfortable receiving it. Right. Can you please clarify what you mean by have to pay the lawyer fees? But okay, for LPA, because you need a lawyer to help you process the documentation, so you have to pay the lawyer for his time or her time to process that documentation. So it typically range from a few $100s. Okay. However, there are also some lawyers doing it on a pro bono basis, depending on, like for example, there are talks previously being organized at certain CCs, and if you go for the talk, then you are able to sign up for the LPA at $50 or something. So sometimes they tie in with community centers, the lawyers, and then if you attend the talk, then they charge you a lower fee for their service. Is caregiving necessary to apply deputyship? Caregiver necessary to apply deputy? Yeah. So like I said, you can be the caregiver, but you may not be the donee. So it is important to have the LPA so that we know who is the donee, all right? And therefore, who has the deputyship, all right? Who can make that decision when you need to make the decision. So in certain families, the caregivers may not necessarily be the donee. The caregiver may just be the caregiver, and the donee may be the paymaster who is paying for most of the things. All right. So depending on how your family works, as a family, you need to have that conversation. I have time for one last question. And so a lot of time we find that, you know, LPA is not very necessary, but accidents can happen at any time. And I always tell people, getting your LPA done is like buying an insurance. I'm sure a lot of you have insurance, and I'm sure a lot of you bought those insurance hoping that you won't have to claim on it, right? It's the same thing for LPA. Get it done, hoping that you wouldn't have to fall back on it, but in case you need to, at least it's there, right? Just like your insurance, in case you need to claim, at least you are able to claim. And I'll leave you with that. And thank you very much for your time in joining us, right? So for those of you who are watching this live session from the NSA Virtual Roadshow or from the C3A Facebook page, please visit our Virtual Roadshow to explore the many learning opportunities at the Learn Zone, and check out the volunteering opportunities at the Fulfill Zone. Do also visit our CFS booth at the Learn Zone and learn more about, our caregiving courses and other NSA courses provided by CFS Center for Seniors as well. Or you can also contact CFS at the phone number or the website that is on this particular slide. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good afternoon. Stay safe and stay well. See you.